Hello and welcome to TNT, a Great British Wrestling podcast for Great British Wrestling, as featured on bodyslam.net and the Jonas Podcasting Network. I am the host of Great British Otaku, Mr. Andrew Moore, and Eaton Most. I am back with my usual co-host. He is the great one, the bearded one, the Santed one, the greyed one, Dan Santa. He is Big Daddy Dan. How we doing, Dan?
Ganter is a phrase that has gone down quite well around here.
Love it.
I am very well, and I am very pleased to be back here with TNT. I love you guys. I just needed a little bit of time off because my life was completely hectic. So being brought back just the most hectic time of year is the right thing to do. And I'm actually really excited to be brought back now because we've got so many interesting things to talk about. We've had a little bit of a chat beforehand about the things that are going to come up in this show, and flipping heck, Brit Wres, you know what you're doing. There's exciting things, there's fun things, and there's serious things to talk about, and we're going to do our best to be serious and honest about them because we're actually getting feedback that says we're talking about things properly, which is really nice to hear.
Yeah, we got a lot of good feedback for our last episode covering the Progress Dubai and the APPG meeting, and we're going to continue talking APPG. We're going to continue talking about what a governing body can offer. We're going to be talking about the absolute shit show that was Brit Wres last week. And yes, we're going to be getting into it, and we're going to be touching on some very touchy subjects. Very
basically, we've got the opportunity to say stuff that could drop us right in the toilet here. We are going to say it properly and carefully and respectfully.
Yeah, definitely 100%. We're going to try and be honest, as we always try to be here on TNT, and we're going to be not toxically positive, because that's never what we've been on about here at TNT. But we are going to touch on, again, very touchy subjects, and we hope not to upset people, but we'll see where things go. Starting off with, I think we're going to have to get out there. So APPG, we talked about it last week on what they do. One of the wrestling representatives of APPG is one Rhea O'Reilly, a senior veteran of the British wrestling scene.
She's a great wrestler.
Great wrestler. She's competed all over the world. She's competed for promotions like Shimmer, Rev Pro UK, and more over here. Pro Wrestling Eve, where she's been a dominant force for a long time. Now, she posted a video of one Sid Scala return to pro wrestling and his wrestling promotion, Hustle Wrestling, or Hustle, something about Hustle, and celebrated their return. A lot of people did, and that's fine. This course brought a lot of blowback from the Brit Wres brigade, if you like. A lot of people who would stand up and point out some parts of the hypocrisy in doing so, given the fact that there were allegations made during speaking out by Mariah May against Sid Scala. I believe Scala tried to press charges for defamation and defamation, and this was thrown out.
Yeah, but to start with, it looked like it was going to cost Mariah May around £20,000 in legal fees, which a lot of people in Brit Wres donated to her Just Giving to make sure that she got the money to cover her legal side.
Yes, she did. And even if it didn't go to court, it actually takes a lot of money to retain a lawyer. So even if something doesn't go through all the way, it still costs a hell of a lot of money to retain a lawyer. I know this because of legal actions I've had to take at times. And I can tell you, it's not cheap to retain a lawyer. So those funds were needed at the time. Now, Rhea O'Reilly wrote a well-written statement regarding the reasoning behind deciding to support Sid Scala, which she discussed making her own investigation, talking to people that she knew and so forth. And she decided that the claims made against Sid Scala were false. That's fine. I believe there's absolutely nothing wrong. I think she 100% did the right thing. And if she wants to stand by that, she can do. And that is absolutely fine. I do not believe there is any problem with that. However, during this, she decided to try and prove somewhat of innocence, I guess, against Sid Scala, in which she revealed text messages among other wrestlers who disparaged the claims in an attempt to disparage Mariah May's innocence or guilt or false allegation, or however you want to phrase it. Now, why I believe the statement was 100% the right thing to do, the second part wasn't. I think the second part, in my opinion, was disgusting, to release those messages, to release the fact that you were... I'm going to let you take over, and so I don't go too far.
Okay, my opinion on this is that Rhea O'Reilly can talk to people that will know a hell of a lot more about you than you or I will know about this. She will be able to speak to people that were directly involved. We don't. We have made a decision based on the statements made by somebody who seems to be the victim, the attitude of the person who seemed to be the aggressor, and the way that they've held themselves and dealt with things since. That's what we did when we've made our comments and statements on this. Rhea O'Reilly has spoken to other people. We don't know exactly what they've said. She has made her decision, and that is fine and understandable, and we respect that decision. However, as you say, putting out other people's comments to disparage somebody's lived experience, unless there is proof, it's exactly the same as what she's complaining about has happened. So that I don't agree with, and I think is not great. However, I'll tell you what I do think. It's got absolutely fuck all to do with the APPG. It has got absolutely fuck all to do with her sitting on the APPG. And I think that that needs to be kept in its own little box over here. And the statements need to be kept in their own little box over there, because it's not relevant.
While I kind of agree with you, I believe the first part isn't relevant. The second part, the release of what she made and those things, is relevant to her standing, for me, as a member of the APPG representatives. And it's... yeah, I just... the releasing of those messages was, for me, too far. It just... because it didn't... it proved no innocence whatsoever. Either way, no innocence, no guilt, no... what it did was just aim to disparage. And...
but she wasn't doing that as part of an APPG statement, as part of an APPG representation. She sits on the APPG as somebody making statements. I, as a counsellor, could get away with doing an awful lot of things if I'm not doing it while representing the council.
If you were a Tory.
Get away with murder. No. No, genuinely, it's all to do with what you're doing at the time and who you're representing at the time. Now, when I do Tea and Tights podcast, I am me. I swear.
You're Big Daddy Dan.
I encourage violence because, you know, wrestling.
Yeah.
But I don't do that as counsellor Daniel Allen. I don't sit in the middle of a council meeting saying, F this, F that, let's go drop kick a person. That's not a good thing. because they have a different hat on.
Yeah.
Therefore, I personally do not feel that what Rhea O'Reilly has done is relevant at all to the APPG, but that is my opinion, and opinions are like arseholes. We do all have them.
No, I will completely 100% concede. You make some very clear points there. And I'm going to go on behalf of the Brit Wres Brigade, or the Mariah May Defenders, or whatever they wanted to call in or insult fans, because they did. They went out there and they certainly did, and certain people were much more than others. We were told, or sorry, not just we, we as fans were told what we needed to do was believe all victims. Now, I don't 100% say, yes, you should always believe all victims. I believe you should believe every victim and investigate.
Yes.
And when we can't see that investigations have taken place, how do you expect us or them to react to things? We are only human. We're only, it's go.
It is innocent until proven guilty.
Mm.
And that's the thing. No police charges have been made, but we don't know that it hasn't been reported to the police and there hasn't been enough proof.
Mm.
I have personally been involved in a couple of cases, one of which where someone was attacked with a knife, and we had audio recording of it happening. But the wonderful people, the fantastic people, the Crown Prosecution Service decided there wasn't enough evidence to proceed. So we don't know whether there has been reports to the police that have then not been taken any further by the CPS, which is quite often what happens. So we just don't know.
And it starts, for me, a bad thing of, well, one piece, we know what we need to 100% avoid is he said, she said. Because that's schoolyard things. And the problem is, we all know it really does take a lot of evidence, as you mentioned, just for, say, a knife attack. For sexual assault, for abuse, for things like this, is even harder for people to actually get the right type of justice, as you say, via channels of law. But what we can do is look to the people and say, well, should these people be in a prominent position anywhere? Now, I can look at the allegations made against Scarlett and just go, you know what? Probably a lifetime ban of him competing as a wrestler may be excessive when we look at the allegations directly. We're not he did not. What he should probably not be allowed to do is run a school or a promotion where he can abuse power like he did in the alleged situation, because this is what the alleged situation was in regards to controlling a person. Doesn't always have to be violent or even sexual. It can be very mental, manipulative, and it's all about control. And that is what that allegation was about: an abuse of control, an abuse of power, because he was sitting in a position of power.
My personal opinion on this is, if there's a show that Sid Scala is on, I will choose not to attend it, support it, or follow it. That's my personal opinion. If I can be proven that there's no reason behind that, fair enough. I will go back and I will come on and I will apologise and be completely straight up about that. But at the moment, that's the way I feel. I would bunch him with a number of other people that have been called out and speaking out, who I'm sure we'll be talking about later. Yay. But yeah, I would choose at the moment to just skip anything that he's involved with. So speaking of skipping things that he's involved with, do we have anything else you want to wrap up on this story, or shall we move along?
We'll move along, but kind of on to the next story, as I mentioned off air. In Poland last weekend, I believe the promotion's PTW, like Primetime Wrestling, maybe, I think, as I say, Polish promotion. They've certainly got a lot of money. They have good studio wrestling by the looks of it, and they draw large crowds. And they've brought in lots of big name talents. Like I believe they had Nick Aldis at one of their first shows. Their commentary team was Santino Marella and Dave Bradshaw. You know,
They had great lighting and staging.
great. They absolutely do, and they look like they could really be a good force in Poland for wrestling, and another place for British wrestlers to compete, European wrestlers to compete, another place to put their name down. Because again, as I say, it looks like they've got some funds behind them, and they'll probably put some things behind it, because you know they've had stars such as Nick Aldis on one of their first shows, and I believe Chris Masters has been on one of their shows, one of the Lucha House Party, I think. Samurai Del Rey, he's on one. Samurai Del Rey,
Samurai Del Rey took on Matt Sydal in the main event.
Matt Sydal.
Zaya Brookside and Myla Grace took on Diana Strong. Joe Hendry took on Trent Seven. Greatest name for a wrestler ever, Puncher. Love that. I don't know who you are. I'm going to look up one of your matches just for your name. But then also on the card was Marty Skrull versus Primate. Flash.
Yeah, lovely. I do not believe that from looking back through their things, this isn't actually the first time they've had Marty Skrull on the show. They've had him on previously. Obviously, we are fully aware of the allegations made against Marty Skrull. They're fully aware why the villain is not in the UK or trying to compete in the UK and is competing in Costa Rica and Peru and wherever else down in South America off the key radar, because we know why. Yeah. Go through the names one more time. Who decided to wrestle on this show for us?
Trent Seven, Joe Hendry, Zaya Brookside, Myla Grace, and then a number of European wrestlers, and Samurai Del Sol and Matt Sydal. The European wrestlers were Starboy and Sinister, Axel Fox and Justin Joy, Puncher and Robert Starr, Silius Bizdrick and Samson, and Paco versus Pure Gold in tag team action.
Not many names I'm particularly familiar with on the European scene, so I'm assuming they're probably more Polish in themselves, but possibly. I'm sure there's a few mixed in from other countries around. I know they've had Diana Strong on their show before. She's a fantastic Polish strong woman. Somebody keep an eye out in that area. But yeah, can I ask something? Do you think wrestlers, when they're approached for jobs, for things, do wrestlers question, or do they just go, yes, we'll take the booking? Do you not inquire to who the promotion is, who the promotion has booked before, who's going to be on the show alongside you?
I don't know, because I'm not a wrestler. My guess is you say, yes, I'll take the booking because I'm free and I want the booking. Then you say, who's on the show? And it might well be that if you're a promoter with someone dodgy on the show, you think, maybe I won't mention it and wait until they see it advertised online. Because you can't say, I didn't know until the day of the show, because it will be advertised heavily on social media beforehand.
And it was panned heavily on social media, so much so that they had to remove the tweet.
Yeah. So this is actually something that the APPG could bring up. They could have a set rule and a set list of upcoming shows and who's on them, which would protect the wrestling companies because people wouldn't double book themselves, and it would protect the wrestlers because they would know who was booked on what show.
Yeah. It's
just a thought.
It's a shame if these people did know who was on there and they've decided to go ahead and go to these shows anyway. It's a shame that these guys haven't gone, you know what? No, I'm not going to share a locker room with Marty Skrull due to the allegations made against him. So despite the fact that, yes, I have flown out here, you know, I'm a former NXT UK star. I'm a Digital Impact superstar. I don't need to work the show.
The issue is, if you're a wrestler who is regularly working for £200 a show in the UK and you get offered £1,000, that's a huge amount of money if this is something you're working at as a full-time job. And some of the NXT people will be possibly looking at working this as a full-time job, or will be desperately looking for work because they've been let out of a contract that was a full-time job.
What do UK promoters now do when they look at this?
Exactly what UK promoters have been doing. Not book people that generally have been called out. The previous discussion we were having, the person that was wrestling was on their own show. So anyone that was on that show couldn't really say, oh, I didn't know they'd be on it. They're the ones paying you. What do Brit companies do? The right thing. We have got a shed load of amazing talent in the UK. We are incredibly lucky. And why do you need to book people that will cause you issues and that a lot of people don't want to see anymore? There's no need. Just stick to booking the good guys and girls and non-binaries.
I think, given what has happened recently, what this certainly has shown me is you were 100% correct last week. I'm going to say it. Believe me when I say it, Dan was 100% correct. I know I never go this far in saying that any governmental board set up, any federation, any association cannot be made up of wrestlers or wrestling promoters. It has to be an independent body. So my question today, the difference in this is, why should a promotion sign to a governing board?
Right.
What are you going to offer me as a board, as me as a promoter?
I'm going to offer the wrestlers that work for you the confidence to know that they will have support and backing when they work for you. So basically, if a wrestler is going to work for promotion X and they see promotion X as part of the APPG, they know they'll be treated in the right way with an agreed amount that will be paid at certain times. For example, this isn't something that's happened yet. This is just an example. They know that they will be looked after in a certain way because that company has signed up with the APPG and will do things that way, which means that you will get a better quality of wrestler, agree, and will want to be on your show as opposed to anybody else's shows. You'll also have set rules that will be put in place for the way you can run your shows and the way you can't run your shows. For example, safety. It might be that APPG insists that to be part of it, you have to have first aiders on site, which is, let's be honest, pretty fucking obvious. If you're running a show, you should have a first aider, ideally paramedic trained, on site. That's something that, again, will bring support and bring respect. As the APPG gets set up in whatever way that they recommend.
By the way, he's using APPG just as a name for the governmental board at this time, not the APPG, because these guys won't be able to do any of this.
No, they won't be able to do any of this. Sorry, my apologies. But you get what I mean. You're asking why they should be affiliated with whatever comes from the APPG.
Yeah.
That's the reasons I think they should be affiliated, because also it will then be respected nationally. And there are people that are wrestling fans that travel all over the UK to watch their wrestling. We, this year, well, you've travelled internationally to watch your wrestling. I've travelled thousands of miles watching wrestling, literally thousands of miles watching wrestling. And you have as well. I know that for a fact. people will then see this promotion is affiliated with that company. I know they're going to put on a show that I will respect. I will go along to that show. That's why they should want to be there, to be associated with something that gives legitimacy and respect to their company.
And to add to that, as me running a supposed governing body, what I would be doing is looking to lobby the APPG, to work with the APPG, to get legislations in place so you guys don't have to, so you guys can step out of it and let one person go out there and deal with wrestling related governmental things to get things put into place for you, including funds such as which would then they could give back to you guys as promotions, say to upgrade your equipment, to provide funds for training, to build, or well, not maybe build, but kit out performance center like facilities to provide the best place for young wrestlers to come and train in safe spaces. We could start working alongside to create a curriculum to begin with for grading teachers.
Do you know what? Another stupid little thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
At Progress this week, what's his name wasn't able to perform.
Adi Akinbayo.
Well, he wasn't going to perform anyway, bless him. No, Chris Ridgway.
Oh, yes, Ridgway.
Hypothetically speaking, you find out on the day of a show your star isn't available. You can contact your APPG assigned company or whatever and say, who's not booked today that is available and able to get to London within 3 hours?
Mm.
And they can go on their database and go, we can offer you X, Y, and Z wrestler who's available. Here is their contact details. If there's a list of who is wrestling where at what time, A, you'll be able to get somebody to back you up. And B, if somebody has double booked themselves, it will be known. Because there have been occasions where wrestlers have double booked themselves. Quite often, that's fine. I know a couple of wrestling companies in this area that will put on a show in Buckinghamshire on the same day as a show that's on in Bedfordshire, and the wrestlers will be on the first half on one show and the second half of another show and drive in between during the thing. So that's absolutely fine. It's okay to double book yourself, but again, this will just give that extra bit of cover. There are lots of reasons why having a board could work and could be really, really helpful. You could even call them in as a gimmick thing to say, we have our championship approved by the what's-name board. So you could even pull in some fake gimmickry to it for fun and shits and giggles. There's
sticking things like that. You could actually have a board, say, could lobby television promotions companies and create a APPG wrestling show where on a weekly show, kind of like TNT, a couple of guys talk about everything that's happening in the APPG related wrestling governing board promotions, where it could even do highlights of show, which would come into the fact, as I say, when you're lobbying, when a governmental body can be lobbying money for you to put into state-of-the-art equipment, you can have the best recording equipment, the best sound sets, and it can be provided
best people,
possibly by should we just start the governing body? I think it's about time. Anyway, I think it's a fun subject to talk about in a way, but any governmental body that's going to try to exist is going to need to be paid for by promotions, which is why I say there needs to be a reason for promotions to get involved with a governing body.
Not fully paid for. I believe that they should have to pay a membership, But I also believe that Sport England can be involved. And if Sport England aren't involved, I believe the Arts Council can be involved.
Why not both?
Well, possibly, because then we can follow through on the Sport England side for the training schools and the Arts Council for the matches. So,
yeah.
Either way, I do believe that, yes, membership should definitely be paid for, but I do believe there should be government funding for it as well.
There you go, folks. There you go.
God, I'm talking common sense today. It's painful.
I know. It's weird. Why? We're usually just cracking jokes the entire time, talking about people being the least intimidating people in wrestling and things like this. But no, not this week. Not ever.
Okay. Let's hold a minute. I'm going to take what you've just said. Who is the least intimidating wrestler in Brit Wres?
I'm sticking with Mark Andrews. I used to say in NXT UK all the time, so I'm sticking with him. He's a great wrestler. He's a mate. Oh God, no. I mean, and there's Harry Chapman as well, but you know, I'm saying I always used to rib Mark Andrews. It's just because he's got such an innocent looking face. He's such a, for me, he should be the eternal baby face. He had a heel run in progress, but I was never a big fan of his heel run in progress. I think he's kind of like the old school Sami Zayn, that eternal underdog. And that's it, yeah. Not the honorary Uso. I mean, although Mark Andrews would probably be a great honorary Uso.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're just going to have to, for a minute, go on to American wrestling, literally just for a second.
All right, go.
How hysterically brilliant was the promo that Sammy cut, the feeling Usi? Bow down to the
genius.
That was brilliant.
Exactly. He's a phenomenal genius.
Yes, he is.
Right. Next touchy subject. We were almost going to talk about this last week. In fact, it was in our notes. We said we'll see how time was, and we've got like an hour and 15. I was like, okay, we really don't got time. But so Scotty Too Hotty, Mr. Worm, Scotty Too Hotty, Scott Garland. Obviously, he put out a tweet last week that said he didn't want to be involved in intergender matches, especially if he's against an intergender, against a wrestler of a opposite sex. And he put it down to not wanting to because he has a young daughter and he doesn't want to seem to be inflicting violence on women. And, you know, there are a bunch of nuances to that. And whilst I don't 100% agree with it, I could kind of respect it. However, given what has actually come out and the fact that the reason behind his tweet was the emerging company SovPro, who have held everything brilliantly. They've done exactly as they should do, and they've addressed it as clear as they possibly can. And it was due to the fact that he was put into a match with Shreddy and Commander Stephanie Sterling. Oh, hell. The non-binary pansexual overlord of the galaxy, or in some regards to that. But they are a they. They see themselves as non-binary. They are a they. They are not him, not her. And some reason I was like, I can let what Scotty said go, but then it's like what's come out further, and I'm just like, well, no, now I actually don't stand behind Scotty whatsoever.
I can completely stand by his initial personal decision. He doesn't want to do intergender wrestling. His rationale, perfect. No problems at all. You don't want to do intergender wrestling? That's fine. Stick to male on male wrestling. Not a problem at all. He wasn't slating people that did it at that point. He was saying it was his opinion.
Yes.
No problems with that whatsoever. Then somebody passed him a shovel and he decided to dig a big old hole. Commander Stephanie Sterling, A, is a bloody clever person who runs their own promotion, and they do it very well. They are a good wrestler, and they jumped on the opportunity to
They
learn.
are an excellent character.
They are an excellent character, and they jumped on the opportunity to have that match and learn from somebody with a huge knowledge like Scotty 2 Hotty. But yeah, you know what? This is kind of like I was saying earlier in our previous shitstorm of a story. If you know who's going to be in your match because it's advertised in advance and you don't want to do it, open your gob before the match. Don't bitch about it afterwards.
Don't try to make shitty excuses either afterwards, such as saying you don't want to do comedy wrestling. I'm sorry, Scotty 2 Hotty, you are a comedy wrestler. You have been since you first donned the worm, the Scotty 2 Hotty. You're a good wrestler. I'm not saying that, but you were funny, you were comedic, you were putting comedy spots, and post wrestling on these independent runs that I've seen you, you've been involved in comedy. You haven't been involved in very serious wrestling. Technical hold.
You say that. Now, the matches he's had with Charles Crowley
were fun.
Have been a combination. There has been good classic wrestling.
Yeah.
But there has been a shed ton of comedy as well.
Shed ton of comedy. Shit ton. Low ton. Big whole ton. And to say you don't want to work with somebody on that basis is an absolute hock of absolute steaming pile of shit.
So, Scotty 2 Hotty, have the Brit Wres spade of shame. Dig your hole.
Yeah, I mean, you know my stance on performers such as Scotty 2 Hotty anyway. I'm not going to shell out my good money just for the fact that Scotty 2 Hotty was going to be on your show. Anyway, promoters, believe me, he wasn't ever going to bring me through your door. It was going to be the other wrestlers around him that would put me through the door. And I'm going to go to the fact that, yeah, kind of have him on your show. I'm not sure I'm going to be at your show.
I'm like that now, but I was very happy that he was coming to the UK to impart his knowledge on the Brit Wres wrestlers. It's just a shame he's turned out with this section of comments to come across a little bit dickish.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I guess I'm just feeling really jaded about everything that has kind of been going on with Brit Wres. You know, in your absence, it's everything's just gone. I'm blaming Big Daddy Dan. He went on his break. Everything went to shit, and it's a murky, darky, grey, white. It's never black and white, and we can't assume everything is black and white. I think that's what we've learned through all of this shit show. Is...
Can I get a T-shirt that says "The Rational Voice of Brit Wres"?
Yes, that's it. Big Daddy Dan, the rational voice of Brit Wres. We are quoting it. We are putting it on there. Let us know if you want to see a range of Brit Wres merch.
I mean, we were also talking, but you know what? It could be worse. We could be a company run by Donald Trump sycophants. WWE. We could
have on our promotion the top, as our top star, as one of the guys we go to, who happens that his wife was at the taking of the White House. Or we could, or religious fanatics,
young bucks. It could be a lot worse. So let's just enjoy the vague sanity that we get with some promotions.
Yeah,
there are some wonderful promotions in the UK. There are some shit promotions in the UK. But you know what? You pays your money, you takes your choice, And if you're going to bitch and moan about them, make sure you've got a reason, not just repeating the same old crap that everybody else does.
Yeah, and I think remember everything is not black and white as much as you want to say, oh, this person's this person's that. It's this promoter believes this, that promoter believes that. It doesn't matter. Okay, just
look. There are some promoters that believe we're great commentators, so there's got to be issues somewhere in the UK.
Got to be somebody. It's ridiculous that we're considered reasonable voices in Brit Wres to begin with. It's we shouldn't be. We're never meant to be taken seriously.
Oh, talking about people that can be taken seriously, that are reasonable voices and sensible.
Go on.
Joey Janela's coming back to the UK. I'm happy. I like Joey Janela.
I don't care for Joey Janela.
I know, but I do.
He's he's a good star. He has a great lot of name power. He has a very, very, very strong independent following. He's made fans of a lot of people, like Big Daddy Dan. He wrestles a certain type of way that suits a certain type of show and a certain type of tournament.
Oh, no, hold on a minute here. I will not disagree with that. But what is he most known for now? As far as pure numbers go? It's going to be his tag team with Sunny Kiss in AEW as far as pure numbers go.
I disagree. It's probably the comments Jim Cornette says about it.
Hey, if you got Jim Cornette hating, you're doing something right.
Yeah, that's very true. Look, again, yes, you're right, but he still brought that type of thing to AEW as well. We can't forget about what was it, his dark match with Kenny Omega, and that's what he's known for.
Yes.
And he's going to be perfect for the TNT Extreme Deathmatch Tournament 2, the Deathmatch Tournament that they're bringing to Birmingham on July 14th. Yes, July 14th. He's the first participant of the Thrill Kill Deathmatch Tournament. They have an earlier tournament in March, which is the Dead or Alive tournament, which is going to have Alley Cat in there. And they've got a great show coming up this weekend. We're going to be talking about that show in just a minute, because that's where we're going to have a bit of fun now. We're going to talk about some of the upcoming.
I am actually gutted. We are going to talk about that in a minute. I'm actually gutted because I am in a planning meeting that night. I was legit going to drive up to Liverpool for that show.
I got, my issue. I got a goddamn dentist.
I was legit going to drive up to Liverpool from Hertfordshire for this show, but we'll get to that. But yeah, Joey Janela, TNT Extreme, Thrill Kill, July 14th in Birmingham. It will be brilliant. I am checking my calendar right now, and if I don't have anything booked, please God, don't have anything booked, I am going to book that in my calendar right now and go to that show. So this is legit right now.
Deathmatch Dan!
Boom. Birmingham.
There we go.
Wrestling. I will be there.
Deathmatch Dan. Oh, and congratulations to the Greedy Souls, because they're going to be going. They've just been booked for Germany in January, man. Congratulations to Danny Jones and Brendan White. I know when we had Brendan on the show, we actually spoke about it, about being involved in, say, the World Tag Team Festival for next year. This is step one. This is time for the Greedy Souls. Big fan of the Greedy Souls as a tag team. Who else? Maria De La Rosa was also booked for that show. Huge fan of Maria De La Rosa. She's amazing. I
was thinking, and we're going to have some Brit Wres awards shows coming up and reviews of the year and things. And I was thinking recently, earlier in the show when we were talking about Rhea O'Reilly, I think Rhea O'Reilly might have been in the best women's match that I've seen this year, which was her versus Laura Di Matteo. back in January for FNW.
No. I mean, just any match with Alex Windsor for me overshoots it straight, because Alex Windsor is an absolute wrestling machine, and there have been some great encounters, but you know, her versus Charlie Evans, that was phenomenal. But yeah, Alex Windsor for me, she's #1 wrestler. Kills it.
Right, let's be positive. Let's be happy. Let's talk about some amazing wrestling that is coming up in the United Kingdom this week and beyond.
Yeah, this week Endor is going to have some amazing shows, and we mentioned it, we hinted at it, we teased it. But TNT Extreme Wrestling in Liverpool on Thursday, it's Cold Day in Hell. And oh my God, let me run down this card and then we're going to talk about it, because woo, there's a couple of doozies. It is Dan Maloney defending the TNT Extreme World Championship against one of the greatest wrestlers in British wrestling, NXT UK superstar, champion of just about every promotion there ever has been, Dean Rampage Brown. And then you got Effie versus Shaman A with Visage as a special guest referee. That's going to be insane. Greedy Souls. Oh, sorry. It is Tag Wars. 4 tag teams. Greedy Souls, Kings of the North, Isaac North and Rob Drake, and Sunshine Machine in this crazy match. I'll find the rules for you. It was released earlier.
It's elimination.
Yes. Clint Margera versus Jimmy Wayne Murdoch for the TNT Extreme Division Championship. They're going crazy in a dry ice death match. Alexis Falcon and Charles Crowley are going to put their rivalry to bed. Lizzie Evo faces Angel Hayes after Angel Hayes' betrayal during TNT Extreme fails. VIP match could main event most shows. It's going to be Tate Mayfair's Tateness is Greatness against the youngest man in charge, Leon Slater, and a bunch of bad music rappers, garage, bad boy chiller crew. Do you know who these are?
I think they're sort of like a youthful bad version of Goldie Looking Chain.
Oh, so they're not that
They are an English baseline collective from Bradford that uploaded comedy and prank videos online before making music influenced by the UK baseline scene, which rose to prominence particularly in Yorkshire during the year 2000s.
What was that? Did you remember there was a BBC, or they used to have some show about garage singers or something? So
they also had
basically,
their own reality TV series on ITV2.
So basically, they're a real life version of that TV show. Yes.
One of them's called Kane, so maybe he'll chokeslam someone.
Yeah. Sorry, I do not know modern music whatsoever. You're a DJ. You should know better.
Yes, I am a DJ, which is why I don't know who they are.
All right. Big Daddy Dan, are you looking forward to any match in particular on that card? Just any match, random match that if you were gonna pick, you know, what match are you gonna pick?
Honestly, I want all of them. I want to see what Visage is wearing as a special referee. Ooh. Visage, don't disappoint me. You will be amazing, I know. I want to see what you're wearing in your special referee's outfit. House of Visage, it should be special. Match-wise, I mean, yeah, I'm going to enjoy the TNT Extreme Division match. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy Tag Wars, which is a tornado tag elimination match. Dan Maloney versus Rampage Brown. Oh my God.
I mean, they're just two big bad dudes that are just going to lump 2 tons of crap out of each other. And the baying TNT crowd, they're going to be ravenous for the blood and sweat that will be slapped into existence.
Now, Maloney's held that championship for a long time.
He has, almost a calendar year.
Yeah.
Almost.
And when you look at them, when they're going to face off, Dan Maloney is sinew and muscle. He's verging on bodybuilder shape. Rampage Brown is a brute. Okay, he is power. He may not look like Dan Maloney as far as being ripped goes, but you know what? I wouldn't want to be hit by him.
He's thick.
He's a big boy.
He's big, but just everything about him is just thickness. You can imagine that it's like a layer of skin that big followed by a layer of muscle, isn't it? It's just
I
yeah.
genuinely don't know who's going to win that match. I can't predict it at all. I cannot see any negatives from either of them winning. I cannot see any positives from either of them losing. I think this match will just be amazing. And I think it'll be long. I reckon this will be a 25, 30-minute match.
Maloney goes over in this match. He cements himself down as probably one of the best TNT Extreme World Champions they've ever had. Rampage Brown comes back to the scene, takes that crown and says, Brit Wres is mine once again. Who's going to dethrone me? It's brilliant. But you've got to look at that Effie and Shayman match as well. Effie is a once-in-a-lifetime talent, I called him, and he really, really is. There's no doubt about it. It doesn't matter what your views are on him, whether you like him or you hate him. He is a polarizing personality. What he brings to wrestling is very different to so much more. And Shayman has been carving a path over in ICW, and that North scene, they are fantastic. And it's going to be great. But Tag Wars, that's just going to be insane to the brain. It is.
I want to see Sunshine Machine against Kings of the North with these rules. I really hope that those two end up facing off at some point during this match.
I'm sure they will be. So here we go. Two teams will start the match, and all competitors will be legal. There will be no countouts, no tags, no disqualification. Both teams will go to war. The match will be one fall to the finish by pinfall, submission, or knockout. When victory is declared, the next team will come to the ring. The match will continue until there is only one team standing. So it's gauntlet style elimination rules. I like it. It's going to be hell. And I have no idea what a dry ice death match is. I don't really want to know. So we'll move on to Friday, but that is Thursday, TNT Extreme Liverpool, cold day in hell. If you're not there, you're missing a great show. It will be available on Pro Wrestling TV in due course. So on Friday, I would recommend you get down to Tipton for Black Country Championship Wrestling and their Son of a Nutcracker show. Would you like to tell me the lineup this time, and then I will go through some of the matches I'm looking forward to?
TJ Sky versus Shane Hooker versus CJ Rawlings versus James Ellis. The man, Dan Maloney, if he can still walk after that match, versus Lee Hunter. Charles Crowley, who will probably be seeing Soprano after his match the night before, versus Kian Kelly. Lucas Cashmere versus Luke Douglas for the KOTD Championship. LJ Cleary versus Joseph Connors.
No, and Joseph.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
Oh, it's Clarkwood Brothers.
LJ Cleary and Joseph Connors making an amazing tag team versus Clarkwood. And Regan versus Stephen King. No DQ.
Luna Blue would also be in action. I'm hearing lots of good things about a young man named Shane Hooker. A lot of good things. A lot of big names in the industry are telling me lots of good things about this young man, saying he is going to be a talent to look out for in 2023. So you should definitely do that. Charles Crowley versus Kean Fox. Now, this is going to be an interesting match. These are two guys who know a few cheap tricks when it comes to the wrestling ring, and it's going to be who can trick the other one the best. It's the Fox versus the Twat.
I'm well up for the Fox versus the 12. I'm also well up for a Luna Blue being in action. I think 2023, Luna Blue is going to end up getting gold in a promotion. I think 2023 is going to be the year for Luna Blue.
I like where you're going. Also on Friday, you got North Wrestling NCL. They're in Newcastle for the World at Large. Shreddy versus Jet Marshall. Rory Coyle versus Effie for the Ultra Violence Championship. Tonga versus Molly Spartan. Gia Adams versus Rio. Trash Bro versus Screwface and Lou Nixon. Boisterous Behavior versus Lycos Jim. Liam Slater versus Michael Oku for the North Wrestling Championship. And Joe Hendry will be defending the Impact Digital Media Championship.
Wow. North Wrestling. Okay, well done. What a card.
Sold out show as well again.
Are you surprised?
Let me just add that. I'm not really that surprised. You know, North Wrestling, again, they've been one of the most consistent wrestling promotions this year.
I mean,
they
as
may
I
not run a show every week or every couple of weeks or 3 shows in a month, and they just run one a month. They sell out every time. Their storylines are always on point, and their wrestling is always brilliant. And the fans at North are nuts. I love the fans at North Wrestling. I love when I went to North Wrestling in NCL, which something I definitely hope to do again soon, is get down to North NCL.
The thing is, right, as you read that out, it was like, that's a good match. That's a good match. That's a great match. That's an amazing match. That's fantastic. That's what? Every match on that card you would pay to see individually.
Absolutely. Shreddy versus Jet Marshall. Jet Marshall is a young lad, part of Pursuit Pro Wrestling's academy under Liam Slater, trains with Crash Boat and Liam Slater and a lot of others. He had a brilliant match against Warhorse in their last show, and it was a real breakout performance. They expected him to, as a heel, kind of get booed in the match, but the North Faithful got behind Jet Marshall like anything. So now he's going to be going up against the Big Bash Freddy. That's going to be excellent. But Liam Slater versus Michael Oku in a wrestling match, it's going to be wrestling. It's going to be great. I'm going to love that match so much. I just know it.
The one that I want to see out of that, and I know I've seen it before, I know I've seen it in other promotions, but I also know what North Wrestling do. Gia Adams versus Rio is going to be awesome.
And you know what, Effie in an ultraviolet match against Rory Coyle. It's over 18 at least.
Thank Christ for that, because Rory Coyle is nuttier than squirrel chip.
One of the L Sick boys, and I do worry for my boys Crash Boat against Big Lou Nixon and Screwface. They're not guys you want to trifle with, but you know, Jack Bandicoot, just so smart as a wrestler. Him and Jake Silver, you know, I believe in you boys. You can do it. But,
they're going to need to be.
Yeah, let's move on to Saturday. Kamikaze in Tipton, Frostfight 8.
Chris Ridgway versus MJ Grayson. TK Cooper versus Tate Mayfairs. Eddie Dennis versus Dan Maloney. Robbie X versus George Lydon, and Chuck Mambo versus Man Like Darius.
Yeah, more matches to be announced on that. I know MVK Falcabius is going to be on the show as well as Chantel Jordan and a few others. But I want to talk about Robbie X versus George Lydon for a minute. George Lydon, again, he's one of these guys I was hearing a lot of buzz about. I've checked him out now over at Wrestle Carnival and at a Kamikaze show. He took on Chris Ridgway. He got beaten to shit by Chris Ridgway, but he stood firm and he gave everything he got, and it was a great match. And his performance with Wrestle Carnival been phenomenal. He's part of the Future X Cup over there. Him versus Robbie X is going to be a really good match. It's going to be a great position for George Lydon. Great matchup for him to work with such a talented performer in Robbie X. But you know, TK Cooper, Tate Mayfairs, You know, I've always been a fan of Teeks. You know, I've always raved about how good TK Cooper I think TK Cooper is. I think he could be an excellent breakout single star at some point. And Tateness, well, he's just greatness.
Oh yeah.
No frame about it. What about yourself?
On that card, Chuck Mambo versus Man Like DeReese. Chuck Mambo is going to have something to prove after finding himself a little lighter of hair.
Shocked. I tell you that happened. But that's for another day. We might be able to talk about in a couple of weeks. There will be no Brit Wres Roundup this week. It's my birthday week, and I really can't be bothered to put an episode together.
You lazy bastard.
I know. How dare I? And then technically there's going to be no Brit Wres Roundup throughout December because I'm not going to be doing it for my birthday. And we're going to have a big special quiz that we're inviting everybody to, because my Zoom can have up to, I think, like 100 if we really wanted to. It'll be a massive Zoom quiz thing. I don't know. Join us if you like, whether you're a wrestler, whether you are a podcast, well, you're a promoter. I don't care. If you want to be involved in our British wrestling quiz, I will excuse myself from it. I will be quizmaster alongside Dan, because obviously that way I can't be accused of cheating. So I'll work with Dan on creating some phenomenal wrestling quiz, not just Brit Wres, but a wrestling quiz overall.
I'm going to put a picture on our Twitter of me as Father Christmas, because I turned on the Christmas lights in Letchworth this week, and it has been just the most insane time for me. I am Father Christmas 40 times this December. Okay, I am running around like a red-arsed fly. It is just mental. So I do appreciate the fact that we are taking December off. There are still some brilliant shows to go out and watch. Let's talk about UBW's show on Sunday.
Yeah, Ultimate British Wrestling. I know you and Stephen are always a big fan of what these guys are doing over down in Hertfordshire Way. They've got their Floor is Lava 4 show, I believe. Rain Leverkusen versus Evie Madden, two phenomenal young women's wrestlers. Charles Crowley, Tony Sin, great superstars. Sunset Skip and Phil Bedwell versus The Odyssey, Adonis Payne and Artemis of the Meme Team. And there is the Floor is Lava Rumble, where the UBW Heavyweight Championship will be on the line because they stripped Truman Roswell in a conspiracy against one of the most upstanding wrestlers in the scene, who provides me so much good information about everything going on in, you know, with the deep state of wrestling and sinister cabals in wrestling.
Truman put his hands on a referee. Truman put his hands on a non-wrestler. Truman deserved to have that belt removed, but they are.
That was a deep fake video. A deep fake video. Now, there is no evidence that ever happened. Nobody's shown a true photo. You know, Truman Roswell had his match. He won his match. He went to the back, and then Antifa thugs attacked, and it's just not fair.
Truman Roswell will have his opportunity in the Floor is Lava Rumble, because of course the floor is lava. If you get thrown over the top rope and your feet hit the floor, it is lava, you're out. So
it's lava, you die. There will be no more Ultimate British Wrestling after this.
They actually have lava-coloured mats on the floor. It's awesome.
I love it.
So
who else is in it?
Truman Roswell versus Tommy Kyle, Tony Sin, Aidan White, Harrison Leon. We love you, Harrison. Jethro Roos, Sunset Skip, Leo Edwards. Sunset Skip again. He's going to get in there twice, apparently, or we've written it down twice. Jackson Hart, Vinnie Cray, Ricky Calvert, Rags, Freddie Idol, Josh Spicer, Benjamin Gedlin, Levi Muir, Artemis, Adonis Payne, Memes. If those three get together, they'll like our podcast. Evie Madden and Rain Leverkusen and more.
Yeah, gonna be a fun show. You know, you guys, you and Steven, you always talked about their shows and how much you enjoyed being there at these shows. So go check them out. Fun promotion. They work with a lot of uprising, great talent.
Now, on the same day, there is a show in Bedford.
Yes, I was going to mention it.
Sacrifice Pro Wrestling, with possibly the greatest named show ever.
What's the show name?
Dwayne Johnsoning around the Christmas tree.
Oh, Saki P, never change. Saki P, never change. Yeah, they didn't have a full match card, so that's the only reason I didn't bring them up. But I was going to say they are on the same day, and I know a lot of ultimate British wrestlers tend to like go between shows, so I'm sure a lot of fans can maybe hit up those shows as well, because I'm sure they won't be that far from each other.
Approximately 8 miles.
There you go. See, not that far. There's also, though, on that Sunday, Rev Pro Wrestling in London, live in London 68. Sean Action Jackson versus Joshua James. Kanji versus Mercedes Blaze. Luke Jacobs and Robbie X versus Dan Maloney and Will Caven. RKJ Ricky Knight Jr. versus Zach Knight for the British Wrestling, Undisputed British Wrestling Championship. Sunshine Machine versus the Greedy Souls for the Tag Team Championships in a no count out match. Connor Mills versus Eddie Dennis. And Michael Oku versus Leon Slater. There's some matches I'm looking at, you know, Mills, Dennis, definitely. I know Dennis has been wanting his match with Mills again since we spoke to Eddie Dennis. He's been on our show. He's a great guy. And he was very high on Connor Mills, saying he wanted to face Connor Mills. So glad we get to see that. Michael Oku, Leon Slater, you know, two amazing talents. They're going to kill it.
Oh, yeah.
RKJ, the Knight family continues. Kanji, Mercedes Blaze, yeah, like that. And the whole thing with Sean Jackson and Joshua James of the Contenders, that's been building nicely as a storyline.
I've just realised that I'm becoming the dick that I hate. I hate people just constantly go on about progress. I don't want to constantly go on about Rev Pro, but in this lineup, there's maybe 2 matches that I'm excited for, and the rest are just, yeah.
It's one of their lesser shows, so they don't tend to go all out for the live in London shows. So
the Connor Mills versus Eddie Dennis,
yeah,
that's a match you won't see anywhere else. That I'm excited to see.
Oku Slater, you're not going to see many places else, so that's another match I'm very excited to see.
Well,
I'm pretty sure I have seen Kanji. Michael Oku and they don't really work that many shows, so I'm good to see that one. I like the look of that match. RKJ Zach Knight, that's been a match going on for years and has been rolling around the country, as you say. Kanji, Mercedes Blaze again. But, you know, there are, I suppose, there's only a finite number of talents you are going to have the same matches when you have so many promotions.
No, hold on. No.
Yes.
Rev Pro have got the opportunity to put on women's matches all the bloody time, and they don't. They put on a very limited number. They have got an amazing talent pool in the UK. Kanji is amazing. Mercedes Blaze is amazing. Put them up against someone you wouldn't often see them against. Throw Angel Hayes in there if you want to have another big name. Throw Lizzie Evo in there if you want to bring her down south. If you want someone down
Blaze
south,
versus Maya Matthews. We've seen Blaze versus Maya Matthews versus Sapphire Reed. Maya Matthews is a young talent that they've been pushing. Chantel Jordan and Sapphire Reed are the 3 girls for me that they need to start to build around. They usually got Kanji and Alex Winners and Mercedes Blaze. Well, what frustrates me is we're only getting 1 match a show, and that's very disappointing for the supposed biggest wrestling promotion in the country right now.
But do you know the other reason I'm a dick about this?
Why?
Because I whinge about it and buy a ticket still and go and see Rev Pro probably more often than most other places.
Well, Rev Pro put on more shows than a lot of other places, but through this, we have seen, and I've spoken about it before, repetitive matches. I remember RKJ when he was leading up to his match with Will Ospreay, was just rotating through the bloody United Empire wrestlers, and and again and again and again, and there certainly are repeating they could do with. They need a fresh pool of talent, and they decided to breed some of their Portsmouth, young Portsmouth guys in, and they certainly need to do some more of that. They also probably do need to bring in a few new talents. They're probably one of the major promotions that works with a much smaller roster and much more choosy about who they work with and what they're doing. But yeah, I get your point. But the thing about the match is for me, that's what you get when there's so many promotions and a finite number of competitors, and you're not going to bring in international talent, and you're not going to bring in. For me, we need to restock talent occasionally and bring in fresh stars, and it needs to be done internationally. Yeah, and it needs to be. We need to look at Europe more than America because it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah, and we've got brilliant talent in Europe. So yeah, I put up my hands. I'm a bit of a dick.
Yeah, go on, be a dick. It's all right. Although progress do sell you. Don't be a dick. It's not the point. It's I know. I we should always be right to criticize promotions when we do not think they're doing right. And there are things about Rev Pro UK for as good as they can be, and they probably are. For me, just about still the number one British wrestling promotion in the UK by a very minimal margin. But there is a lot of repetition, and it's bound to happen. TNT Ignition, TNT Extreme's second brand, the TNT Ignition brand, they're in action at Liverpool for High Voltage.
Danger.
High Voltage. Shreddy versus RPD for the Ignition Championship. Gia Adams versus Harley Hudson versus Lucy Sky versus Aurora Tevez. LJ Cleary versus MVK Falcabius. Chase Alexander versus and Tate Mayfair versus Crashboat. Big Guns Joe versus Simon Miller. Dynamite Lee versus Ben Reed. And Sonna Durson versus 2-Bit. Now that's the match I'm liking. This is the third match. I don't know. There is a stipulation to it. I can't remember what the exact stipulation is, but Sonna Durson two amazing young wrestlers, and they'll one day be main event a lot of big shows, and certainly somebody to look out for. Anything else for you, young sir?
I just want to comment on Tate Mayfair's travelling all over the UK for matches at the moment.
The level up briefcase holder.
Yeah. He's all over the shop because he's a really good wrestler and Tate's his greatness.
Of course. Sam Miller, Big Guns Joe is a storyline fed, and Shreddy versus RPD main event.
This has got to be the end of the Big Guns Joe Simon Miller storyline.
Yeah, I would guess so. Be interesting to see where they go from there, because I know Big Money Miller, or whatever he goes by as a heel, not sure if it's really catching on. There's more wrestling come Monday. Catch Pro Wrestling in Manchester, to be precise, for one of their Monday night Catch Pro shows over at the Bread Shed. Scotty Rourke versus Luke Jacobs. Joe Kessler versus Charlie Sterling for the Openweight Championship. Brady Phillips versus Chris Ridgway for the GMAC Heavyweight Championship.
It's good to see the Greater Manchester Athletic Commission Heavyweight Championship being defended by Brady Phillips.
Indeed. Once again, he defeated Rampage Brown last time out. Tony Wright versus Scott Overman. And then you've got more of the Enigma series as Emerson Jane faces Lucy Sky in the Enigma series Block A. And Alexis Falcon versus Lana Austin also in Block A. Alexis Falcon is yet to pick up any points. So is Lana. Emerson Jane and Lucy Sky have 2 points apiece. And congratulations, Lana, for winning the Progress Championship.
Lana!
Lucy and Harley Hudson also for the B block. But I love Monday Night Catch Pro. I love Catch Pro. We had Scotty on the show a little while back. He's a great guy. They do a lot of good work. He's very vocal about what he believes needs to be done in the British wrestling industry, and you've got to respect somebody who wants to speak their mind, and fair play to him for continuing to do it.
So we've taken Brit Wres very seriously at the beginning of this show. But luckily on Tuesday night, we have modern Nomad Pro Wrestling.
We do, and it's Santa Slam Night 1. Night 2 takes place in Cardiff on Saturday. There's not many matches been announced, but there's been a few, including Kid Lycos versus Lee Hunter versus Kid Lycos 2 versus Elijah for the Shitwolf Championship, which I believe is just a dummy that has one of the Lycos gym masks on it. You know, of course, why not? G Money versus Mark Kirby in a Banda match 2. And Harry Chapman versus Luke Jacobs in a keyboard death match. And they were going to have a show on Wednesday, but it's not. As I say, they were going to have a show Wednesday in Cheltenham, but unfortunately that show's been pulled. So it's just going to be Santa Slam on Tuesday in Manchester. So, you know, if you want to do Catch Pro and Modern Nomad Pro Wrestling back-to-back in Manchester, why bloody not? I absolutely love it. I love British wrestling. I know we complain about it a lot. I know we love it a lot. We're not toxic positive. We're not toxic negative. We just do guys who want to talk about wrestling.
Yeah,
and if you want to hear our opinion,
I don't think we complain about it a lot. I think we give a fair representation of what's going on.
Well, that's what we try to do. And if we bore you, we're sorry. If we entertain you, brilliant. If you take what we say seriously, what's wrong with you?
One last thing I'd like to say.
What was that?
If you do think what we're saying makes sense, let people know. Tell people to have a listen to us. Tell people that they should be paying attention to what's going on in Brit Wres and have a rational reason to talk about what's going on in Brit Wres. Please share us. Please let people know what we're talking about.
Indeed. And also, check it out once it becomes available. Phenomenal Elite Wrestling's Rude Awakening show. It's going to be made available in the next week or two. You may just hear a familiar voice or two. So go support Phenomenal Elite Wrestling. Go support British wrestling. Go support independent wrestling. Go support wrestling around the world. And remember one thing: don't feed the trolls.